So I've just dissected some of the frivolous and disingenuous arguments made by some supporters of President Trump over his indictment and explained why I'm reluctant to accept the argument that it's just so bad for the country that AG Garland shouldn't have moved forward. But here's where I disagree with some on the left. Some of them are now calling for the Trump-appointed Judge Aileen Cannon to recuse herself, to step down from the case. See, I actually think it's a good thing that you have a Trump-leaning judge presiding. It adds credibility to the process and denies Trump's team the ability to argue the judge is out to get him. Remember, she also presided over a lawsuit filed by Trump challenging the FBI's search of Mar-a-Lago. In that case, Judge Cannon issued a series of controversial rulings favorable to the former president, which helped to slow down the investigation until she was overturned by a conservative panel of appeals court judges. But a judge making controversial rulings that are overturned doesn't mean she should have to remove herself from the case. But this weekend, Eric Holder, the former U.S. Attorney General under President Obama, called on Judge Cannon to sit this one out.
I certainly don't think that she has the ability, based on what happened before and the way in which she was excoriated by the circuit court for trying to interfere with the FBI's search of Mar-a-Lago. I don't think she has the ability to project the notion of neutrality that a judge who's handling this matter has got to be able to do. So I would hope that she would see within herself, or that somehow, some way, she is convinced that she should get off the case and that some other judge should handle this matter. I don't have confidence in her abilities to be fair or to be seen as fair.
I think that's a troubling take from a former attorney general, for him to abjectly state that Judge Cannon can't be fair without even seeing what she does here. Now, you are not going to hear me defend Judge Cannon's prior rulings. At the time, I criticized her decision to appoint a special master in the investigation that unnecessarily slowed the process. And 3 conservative judges on the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals agreed, overturning Judge Cannon by saying her decision, quote, would be a radical reordering of our case law, limiting the federal court's involvement in criminal investigations, and would violate bedrock separation of powers limitations. But if shaky rulings were enough to get a judge thrown off a case, we'd have a lot of judges stepping back from a lot of cases. The judicial recusal rule sets a very high bar. It says, quote, any justice, judge, or magistrate judge of the United States shall disqualify himself in any proceeding in which his impartiality might reasonably be questioned. And yet you have some critics arguing that Judge Cannon's prior rulings are enough to question her impartiality in this case. In a column for the left-leaning website Slate, well-known attorneys Richard Painter, who will join us in a minute, Norm Eisen, and Fred Wertheimer argued, quote, the judicial recusal rule is about preserving the public's confidence in the judicial system. It does not require a showing of actual bias. Rather, as the Supreme Court has explained, it simply asks whether an objective observer in the public would have questioned the judge's impartiality. That's the case with Judge Cannon. Now, I'm not sure what an objective observer is anymore these days. Look, I hope I'm one. I questioned her decision and even her impartiality at the time. But when talking about preserving the public's confidence in the judicial system, they're even calling on the chief judge to reassign the case if Judge Cannon doesn't step aside. I would think we should all want a Trump-leaning judge to preside. It adds to the public trust. And if she shows herself to be totally incapable of fairly overseeing the proceedings, then let's talk. Joining us now is Richard Painter, who previously served as chief ethics lawyer in the George W. Bush White House. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. All right, so what am I getting wrong here?
Well, first of all, I should emphasize I'm not coming from the political left. I was a Republican for 30 years. And indeed, much of the irritation of the White House lawyers and the lawyers at the University of Pennsylvania, I have demanded a full investigation of what happened with the Penn Biden documents in particular, and also the $50 to $100 million raised by Amy Gutmann, former president of the university, who President Biden appointed ambassador to Germany, and then she somehow forgot about all that Chinese money she raised in her confirmation hearing. I want her brought back to Washington, answer some questions, want to find out who saw those documents. I don't believe that President Biden committed a crime, but that investigation is ongoing, and I believe that anyone who commits crimes in connection with classified documents needs to be prosecuted, whether they're president, a former president, or anyone else. I gave the lectures for the Bush White House on classified information, handling of classified information in 2005. on orders of the president after Scooter Libby, the vice president's chief of staff, was indicted in connection with a scandal that did involve classified information. This should not be a partisan issue.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.